second grade, happy Wednesday. Welcome to our math workshop for today. The materials that you are going to need today are something to write with, 1 or 2 pieces of paper, and some markers or color pencils or crayons, whatever you have available at home. Any of the above will work. So get those materials ready and then we'll get started. All right, so we're going to continue talking about data and graphs. Yesterday we focused on picture graphs, and today we're going to talk about bar graphs. So just to review from yesterday, remember, data is what we collect so that we can create graphs. Data is information about the world, and there's lots of different types of data. Graphs are how we show data, and there's lots of different types of graphs that you can use for different things. We talked about pictographs yesterday, and today we're going to focus on bar graphs. So I'm going to click through the bar graphs. They are similar to pictographs, but the pictures become bars, and I'm going to be showing you an example in just a moment. So the top of a bar shows you how many are in a category rather than the number of pictures. So yesterday, we used the pictures to tell us how many are in here, right? We could count and say, okay, 1 fruit equals 1 person. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people who like apples. Today, these pictures are going to turn into bars. So bar graphs have really similar requirements to pictographs, but it is slightly different. They have to have a title, and the title tells us what the whole graph is showing. They also have categories, just like we did yesterday, down here at the bottom with the apples, bananas, grapes, peaches, and other. Those were our categories, the different choices. Then there's the scale, and the scale is right here. The scale is the numbers that show how many chose each category. So yesterday we labeled our scale like this. Today we're going to label it pretty similarly, but with a bar graph, you have to give your scale a title, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. And then, of course, there are bars. Today we're making bar graphs, so instead of drawing pictures, you're going to be creating bars, and I'm going to show you how that's done. So just like yesterday, I have some made-up imaginary classroom data. This is room 81's pets. So I asked this class what type of pet they have at home. And if they have more than 1 pet, I asked them to just choose one of their pets for this data. So 5 students had a dog, 8 students had cats, 7 students had fish, 7 students had no pets at all, and then 3 students had pets other than a dog, a cat, or a fish, or no pet. So we're going to use this data to create a bar graph today. Let's try it out. All right, so just a reminder for this lesson, I have my markers. I have a ruler to help me make straight lines. If you have a ruler or something else with a flat edge, even like a little frame or anything that has a straight edge, you could use the edge of a folder. It can help you make straight lines. If you don't have something like that, it's okay, just try your best. It's all right if it's not perfect. So I have my markers, I have a ruler, and I have something to draw my graph with. So my project is going to start out very similar to our last one. I'm going to first draw a line for my title and then draw the outline of my graph. So let's start with that. Okay, let's get started. So I have my outline for my graph, and I have a line for my title. So let's start with labeling our categories. And remember, our categories go on the bottom of our graph, right? This bottom line here, this bottom axis has our categories listed on it. So I'm going to write down my 5 categories. So I have dog, cat, fish, no pets, or other pets. I wrote them a little bit differently on here than they look on the data. That's okay, I just needed to save some space. Okay, so now that I have my categories, remember these are the categories. Now I'm gonna think about my scale. So when I'm thinking about my scale, I wanna think which one of these categories has the most. Dog has 5, cat has 8, fish has 7, no pets has 7, and other pets has 3. So cat has the most. So the cats, there are 8 students. So I need to make sure I have enough room for 8 at least. I'm gonna go one above my most, so I'm gonna make it big enough to fit 9. So I'm gonna draw the lines right here. Okay, so I have 9 lines. When you're drawing these lines, you wanna try to space them out pretty evenly. It's okay if it's not 100% perfect, but try to make the spaces in between each line close, okay? Then you're gonna label them. All right, so like I mentioned, there is one thing that's different about the scale compared to pictographs, and you have to label your scale. So I didn't leave a ton of room right here, but I'm still just gonna squeeze it on there. When you write your version, I would leave a little bit more room than I did to label your scale. So these numbers here are telling me what? What do the numbers tell us? The numbers tell us how many students had that type of pet. So on this side here, I'm gonna put students. That would be the label for our scale. When you're creating your graph, you don't have to label categories and scale. You just have to write the categories and write the label for the scale. I'm just including them to help you remember all of the different requirements. Okay, we'll save the title for the end just like we did last time. All right, so now we're gonna start thinking about our data and how to create the bars. So let's start with dog. There are 5 students with a dog. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm gonna draw my first bar. So when you draw your bar, you want the bar to line up with this line here. You don't want it to be in between 4 and 5 because that would be like 4.5. You don't want it to be above 5 because that would be 5.5 or closer to 6. You want it to line up right with your line. And it can be a little bit tricky when you get away from the side here. This first one is pretty easy because you're right here, but I'll show you as you go how you can make sure that your lines are accurate. So 5 students with a dog. There we go. All right, let's talk about cat next. If I was to draw this line again, I might make it a little bit straighter. There we go. That's okay. Okay, what about a cat? We have 8 students who have a cat, so I gotta go all the way up to 8. And then I need to move over to my cat column here. Your bars are going to touch each other, but they're not going to overlap. So when you draw your bar, it's gonna touch this side right here, but it's gonna go up to 8, and it's gonna be separate. So one way that you can help yourself to sort of line up your graph well is to put one finger at that number, one finger at your category, and sort of come together right here. Maybe make a little dot to help you. And then you can go in and draw your graph. Again, if the lines are not perfect, it's okay, but try your best to make them as accurate as you can. See, I kind of have a little bit of space right here that I wish I didn't have, but it's okay. So this is my dog, this is my cat. Now we're gonna do fish, no pet, and other pet. Okay, so fish. So we have dogs with 5, cats with 8, fish with 7, no pets also with 7. You can see these are the same height, and other with just 3. Now we're gonna go in and we're gonna color each bar a different color, and you can choose the colors that you would color yours in. So. now my bars are all colored in different colors: red, blue, green, yellow, and purple. When you're coloring your bars, you want to make sure that you choose colors that are really different from each other so that it would never get confusing about which one is which. All right, so now we need to add a title for our graph. What would be a good title that applies to this entire graph? Students of Room 81's pets. I wanted to choose something that encompasses everything that's on this graph. So calling it a chart, calling it a graph that shows all the pets that the students in this class have covers everything that this graph is about. Just like yesterday, I'm going to give you some more imaginary data and you're going to try out the same thing. But before you do, we're going to talk again about graph statements. So, just like last time, you're going to use your graph to help you make some statements about it. What could be learned from this graph? What's one thing that you might learn from this graph? I'm going to put, for one of my graph statements, cats. Cats are the most popular pet in Room 81. What that means is that the most students have cats in this class, and you can see that very easily from this graph, that this blue column, the cat column, goes higher than any other column. All right, let's do another one. Okay, I have an idea. Fish and no pet have the same amount of students. Okay, and one more graph statement. Anything that you could learn from this graph? The least number of students is the other pets group. I wonder what kind of pets they have. So this graph not only answers many questions, but helps me come up with more questions as well. Let's go over the data that you're going to be using for your independent work. Okay, so here is your data for your independent bar graph. You can see here I have a title of this slide called Room 81's Favorite Colors. That might be a helpful hint for you when you're giving your graph a title. So I have red, blue, yellow, and green as my color choices, and then a different color besides the options that were given. So 6 students chose red, 9 chose blue, 3 chose yellow, 8 chose green, and 5 had a different color that wasn't listed in these options here. So you're going to create your own bar graph using this information. Remember to include a title, the categories, the scale, and this time remember to label your scale. We didn't label it in the first one in the pictographs. Now you need to be labeling your scale and your bars. There should also be 3 graph statements, which are things that you can learn from your graph. You can write these on the back of your paper or on a separate sheet of paper. 3 simple sentences explaining different things you can learn from your bar graph. All right, boys and girls, have fun with this project. We can't wait to see your examples. When you are done with the assignment, an attachment is not required today, but if you'd like to show your teacher your work, you can absolutely upload a picture. Make sure you color it in and make it look nice. Have fun!